Hello, dear listeners. Today, I invite you to lose yourself in the layered depths of a classic tale, the story of Little Red Riding Hood. At first glance, it presents itself as a simple parable, one we often encounter in the early pages of childhood. But lean closer, listen with an attentive heart, and you may discover the beautiful intricacies and subtle wisdom woven through its every shadow, glen, and sunlit path. Imagine a village teetering on the edge of a dense, enigmatic forest, one that both beckons and warns. Here, in a cozy cottage snug against the wild reach of the trees, there once lived a girl whose very presence radiated kindness. Her laughter was as bright as the morning dew on spider webs, her sense of wonder a light that drew not only the trust of neighbors and friends, but the affection of a grandmother whose love for her knew no boundary. It was this grandmother, graced with nimble fingers and an artist's warmth, who stitched for her granddaughter a brilliant red cloak, its hue so vivid it seemed to hold the glow of every sunset. Red not only for beauty, but as a symbol, perhaps, of the care and joy and caution that would one day intertwine in her story. So it was that the people of the village, seeing the girl so often shrouded in crimson, with the hood pulled gracefully over her shining hair, came to call her Little Red Riding Hood. The passage that links her home to her grandmother's is not merely a path slicing through the woods, it's a corridor of transformation. To walk it is to move from innocence to experience, from trust to understanding, with the forest itself bearing silent witness to the journey. One gentle morning, as dew clung in silver beads to the wild grasses, Little Red Riding Hood's mother prepared a basket. She was thoughtful, a loaf of bread, still warm and fragrant, a pat of creamy golden butter, a pot of tart berry preserves, and a small bouquet of sweet violet blooms. There was love in every detail, for the girl's grandmother was unwell, and the journey to her cottage was long enough to require sustenance and a gift of cheer. "Take this to grandmother," her mother said, pressing the basket into her daughter's arm. "Go straight along the path, do not linger to chase butterflies or pick flowers, and above all, speak not a word to strangers. The forest is not always as it seems." Little Red Riding Hood nodded, her red cloak catching the sunlight, and set off. Her feet followed the winding route between ancient trunks, bird calls echoing above her. There was magic in the filtered light, in the tapestry of leaves, in the earthy perfume of moss and decay. If she paused, it was only to marvel, never to stray too far, that is, until her story's pivotal moment. Waiting in the half-light of morning's promise, where shadow thickened between the trees, was a wolf. This was no storybook monster, no mere embodiment of fear, but a creature with a cunning to cloak malice beneath a mask of civility. Even his greeting, "Good morning, little one, where might you be headed?" was delivered in a tone so courteous it invited trust. Little Red Riding Hood, her mind gentle and open, responded with truth, revealing both her destination and her errand. "To grandmother's, on the other side of the wood. She's under the weather, and I carry these things to make her well and happy." The wolf's eyes, sharp as shards of obsidian, flickered with calculation. In that instant he devised a plan, something far more elaborate than hunger alone, a deception built on timing, on the art of misdirection. "How lovely you are to care so for your grandmother," he said. "Surely a bouquet of wildflowers would lift her spirits further. See how richly they carpet the forest floor? I would, if I were you, gather an armful, no small token for someone you love so very much." The suggestion was tempting, and, despite the echo of her mother's words, Little Red Riding Hood hesitated just long enough for temptation to win. She thanked the wolf, how polite he seemed, and waded into the tall grasses, searching for blossoms with colors as bright as her cloak. While she busied herself with flowers, the wolf wasted not another second. He was a streak of gray through the undergrowth, a gust of predatory wind. He knew well the paths of the forest, its shortcuts, its secret ways, and so he arrived at the grandmother's cottage long before the girl could glimpse its roof through the trees. With a soft, artful knock at the door, the wolf altered his voice to a pitch of innocence. "Grandmother, it's me, your Little Red Riding Hood," came his cry. The old woman, weakened and trusting, called out for her granddaughter to enter, but when she saw the wolf, her heart leapt in fear. Yet she was not devoured instantly. Instead, the wolf, clever as he was cruel, hid her in the wardrobe, his main concern to save his greatest surprise for the granddaughter soon to arrive. Donning the grandmother's nightgown, perching her glasses on his nose, the wolf nestled beneath the quilts. He waited, patient and composed, for the next act in this ballet of disguise and deceit. When at last Little Red Riding Hood approached, the forest seemed almost to lean in closer, breath held. She knocked softly. "Grandmother?" she called, stepping into the curious darkness of the room. Sunlight lay pooled on the floor, stopped by heavy curtains. A faint aroma of wildflowers mingled with something unfamiliar. "Come in, my dear," croaked the wolf, affecting feebleness with deceptive skill. Red Riding Hood came forward, her senses, dulled by innocence and hope, only slowly sending warnings. Yet, as she approached the bed, oddities revealed themselves in sequence. "Grandmother, what big ears you have," she observed, puzzled yet not yet afraid. "All the better to hear you with, my child. And your eyes, how large and bright they are. All the better to see you with, my dear. Grandmother, your hands are so big and strong. All the better to embrace you with, my dear." And then, as if complicit with the story itself, her gaze fell on the wolf's teeth, long, sharp, and unmistakable. "Grandmother, what very big teeth you have." And in a single instant, the pretense shattered. "All the better to eat you with," the wolf roared, casting off the disguise. The little girl's terror echoed through the cottage and out into the clearing, a cry for help as old as human frailty itself. The wolf lunged, intent on finishing his plot of deception. But fairy tales recognize the necessity of hope, and salvation often arrives when it's most needed. A woodsman, passing nearby, heard the desperate scream and burst through the door, his axe at the ready. The sight that met his eyes was surreal, the wolf above the frightened girl, the room's comfort transformed into a scene of chaos. With swift courage, the woodsman confronted the wolf, forcing him to retreat, routing him through an open window, far into the darkest reaches of the forest. The woodsman released the grandmother from her hiding place. The three, little girl, grandmother, and woodcutter, embraced, trembling between relief and disbelief. They sat together at the table, sharing the bread and jam, the blessings of safety and reunion feeling sweeter than any treat. That evening, as the sun set in ribbons of gold and rose behind the trees, Little Red Riding Hood reflected on what had passed. She saw, with a new clarity, how an act of kindness could be misused by those with hearts of darkness, how even the most innocent could encounter deception cloaked in charm, how courage, both her own and that of strangers, could change a story's course. When she returned home, Little Red Riding Hood recounted her adventure honestly to her mother. She felt the weight of her disobedience, but also an understanding that true wisdom is forged in experience. From that day forward, she listened just as much to caution as to curiosity. She cherished not only the meadows and flowers, but also the wisdom that boundaries provide. The story of Little Red Riding Hood endures not simply because it warns us of wolves, it persists because it reminds us, no matter how dazzling the forest, no matter how persuasive the voice, that our best guides are love, awareness, and the courage never to surrender to fear. Our cloaks may be woven from affection and trust, but they are brightest when illuminated by the lessons we gather along our path. And now, if you find yourself traveling the world's winding ways, whether through shadowed woods or quiet villages, hold these truths close. Respond to beauty with wonder, but don't let it blind you. Listen to warnings, but do not let them make your heart hard. Meet strangers with politeness, but remember, trust is a precious gift. And finally, should you meet wolves who wear the faces of friends, may you, like Little Red Riding Hood, find the wisdom to see, the swiftness to run, and the hope that rescue, or resilience, always lies ahead. Thank you for joining me in this journey through the enchanted forest. The tale of Little Red Riding Hood lives on in every grandmother's embrace, in every cautious step through the unknown, and in every heart kept open, yet wise. Until next time, stay curious but stay careful, dear listeners.